I've got it, guys. I've got the answer. This is how we will win the title this season, okay? We've got the wrong Gabriel up front. Gabriel Jesus is not the right one up front. We've got 3 Gabriels, and the other 2 would be better in that number 9 role, it would appear. Big Gabby at the back, arguably scoring 2. I think it's very harsh that the second goal was given as an own goal. I need to look at the replay. It looked like the header was on target, but Gabriel scoring, let's say, 2 goals from set pieces. We are the top scoring set piece taker in the league. Trossard getting his goal as well, but Gabriel Martinelli rightly benched. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, he hasn't been very good this season. It's not been his best season by his standards. Last season he was our top scorer, really, really good, but he's been poor, and he chose violence today. He came on in, the 69th minute? Behave. And he scored 2 goals in what was, I think, the last few minutes. Yeah, look, 94th, 95th minute. That pass from Jorginho was, it's a perfect. Sorry, I don't know why. I don't need to be doing that. Honestly, though, super, super pleased with the 5-0 win. I would argue that some people will say it's a little bit flattering considering how many games we've gone without scoring consistently. But this is what happens when you get the stats and things go your way. If you think back to the West Ham game, we had over 30 shots, and let's just take a look for a second. Ignore the form, okay? Going into this game, Crystal Palace technically had better form, which is terrifying. But this West Ham game lives rent-free in my head right now. We should have absolutely won that game. 30 shots, no goals. And then today, what was it? 20-something shots? 21 shots, 5 goals. And it just goes to show, whilst a lot of Arsenal fans, including myself, were panicking a little bit, it's kind of like, okay, we're throwing away the season. It is just a case of needing that little bit of luck. And obviously you need good finishing. And that's what we've been lacking. And I still believe we are lacking a top striker. We need a striker to come into this team, ideally now. We'll talk about Jesus a little bit more. But this is what happens, like I said, when you get the stats and you get that bit of luck. The stats actually go your way in more than just numeric value. It was a really, really good performance. You can see here with the momentum graph. I mean, Palace barely touched the ball in the first half. Genuinely, it was quite shocking. And they had a couple of moments in the second half where a few shots that Raya needed to make a save. Great throw. His rollout to, I think it was Jesus, and then to Trossard for our third goal was genuinely beautiful. Let's have a quick word on Crystal Palace, because we're talking about a club that somehow managed to stay up every single season, consistently a Premier League club now. Let's face it, they haven't been down in a little while. They've got a manager that was quite literally managing in the Premier League before Arteta was born. Okay, it wasn't the Premier League, but his first, I think it was a year before Arteta was born. I read it somewhere. He took his first game in charge of a first division team. That's insanity. And Roy Hodgson has got all the respect in the world from so many people, deservedly so. But what we saw today was naivety. If I was Roy Hodgson, or if I was the Crystal Palace manager at halftime, I feel like I would have absolutely hammered into them the dangers of us catching the ball or giving it to Raya somehow in the box and hitting them on the break, because we destroyed them by doing that. And it was really quite messy at times. They just didn't know how to cope with Saka in behind, Jesus in behind. And by the way, just want to make this perfectly clear. I think Jesus is a fantastic player, but I just don't think he's a striker. I don't see him as a lethal finisher. And I unfortunately agree with Man City fans, and clearly Pep. The reason they let him go is because he doesn't score consistently. He's a creative forward that scores goals, but I think he said it himself. He's just not an out-and-out goal scorer, which is what we need. Although it worked out today with 5 goals. But they just didn't seem to learn from their mistakes. And I'm surprised, because Guehi's fantastic, England international. Anderson is one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League on his day. There's no doubt about it. His ball distribution, his defending in general is it's at a very high level. There's a reason he was linked to big clubs, including Arsenal, back before he moved to Crystal Palace. He's a very good defender, and I will stick by that. He's one of the best on his day. He's so, so good. Just had an absolute stinker Richards, I think he was moved into midfield recently, and I don't know if I think he might be better there. I don't know if three at the back worked, put it that way. I can't believe they're still playing Klein as their right back. I think I saw a video online, it might have been on TikTok, it was describing how Crystal Palace have had two right backs for like the last 15 years, and they've just cycled through them. And, you know, they've left and come back, and it's Ward or it's Klein. And obviously they had Wan-Bissaka for a short time before he was sold to United. But they need to move on. They need to get someone down that right side. I really do believe that. But they were always going to struggle. You know, they went 1-0 down very early on. We scored in the first 10 minutes, 11th minute, big header from Gabriel. And by the way, I saw pictures of Declan Rice practicing corners yesterday. And I thought, why? Why is he practicing corners when we've got Martinelli, who often takes them on that side? You've got Saka on the other side. Ødegaard can take those as well. But why is Declan Rice, one of our taller players, actually, and he gets an assist with his first one? I think we might have found our new corner taker on that side of the pitch, swinging in with the right foot. We know Rice's quality, but I wasn't so sure about his dead ball quality. Very, very impressive. Again, another good performance from him. Although subbed off after 70 minutes or so, I think that's just rotating the squad. We've been on a break, and match sharpness is obviously a little bit on the low end. I'm surprised that Ødegaard and Havertz haven't got higher ratings. I think in this position, to get better match rating, you just need more stats in general than other positions, and I think that can actually reduce it slightly. But he was brilliant, Ødegaard, absolutely brilliant. He might not have got a goal or an assist today, but the pre-assists, the passing, the build-up, he's sitting deeper. You know, when Smith Rowe came on, he was further ahead than Ødegaard, and I think that says quite a lot. And by the way, I'm hearing that Smith Rowe was absolutely insane in this Dubai camp we've been on for the last week. And I've got a feeling he's gonna get a lot more game time in this second half of the season, and I'm really praying for that. I really want Smith Rowe to make it. There are reports that West Ham want him on loan. Apparently, Arsenal said no instantly, and also Smith Rowe doesn't want to leave. But of course, it's all just rumours. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But Smith Rowe came on to the loudest cheer, other than goals. I think he's one of the fan favourites for sure. Him and Saka, number 7, number 10 for a reason. And I was so happy to see him get some minutes, and he looked sharp. He looked very good. So I would like to see him start soon. Down the left side, it's tricky really, because we've got Martinelli and Trossard both fighting for the left wing position, but I think Smith Rowe can play there as well. But ideally, Smith Rowe plays as a number 8 in that kind of Granit Xhaka role that we saw last season. But if Havertz is starting, not dropping Rice, not dropping Ødegaard, I mean, Saka's obviously starting. I mean, could we play Smith Rowe as a false 9? Is that something we could look into? I don't know where he goes in at the moment, other than Havertz. And it wasn't his best game. He was fine. You know, it was an overall very good performance from everyone. But I did obviously want to have a special mention to Gabriel, who, let's face it, gets overshadowed by Saliba defensively, which sometimes I think is fine. Understandable. Saliba's just unreal. But Gabriel defensively is elite as well. And we don't talk about his threats going forward and his mentality. He's just an absolute animal. He's on another level to Saliba in that regard, in my opinion. There's something about Gabriel that it's like a war. Every game is a war for him. And Saliba's definitely a lot calmer. He is the Rolls Royce. And then you've got Gabriel, who's the Lambo. He's the loud Ferrari. He's a Nissan GTR. Like, he's not as expensive as the Rolls Royce Saliba, but he's still very, very good performance-wise. And I absolutely love Gabriel. So I'm so glad he got the recognition today and he got man of the match. It was given to him, even though Gabriel Martinelli obviously came on and got the 8.8 rating here. And Jorginho was brilliant when he came on as well. Very impressed with him. I just think going into the final week, just over a week left of this transfer window, I would like to see a striker come in, but I just don't think it's possible. I don't think we can afford it. Not yet. FFP. Basically, FFP is holding us back. Of course, we've got the cash flow and we've got the structure in place to bring a top-level striker in, but we would be breaking FFP, and it might be just a slap on the wrist, you know, if we broke FFP once and fixed it as soon as possible. And you're seeing other clubs maybe dropping a couple points there. And do you know what? It's funny, you see Everton dropping 10 points because of FFP, and it could be more, we don't know. But imagine if it was reduced to 5, if they fought it and won. Would you take a 5-point deduction to have Osimhen in the team now? Let's face it, we're probably not going to win the title this year, but imagine getting Osimhen now, getting him to gel for 6 months, and then bang, next season we go. Is it worth the 5-point deduction? That's what I'm trying to convince myself of. Of course, you don't want to break FFP, but it's a funny thought that if the punishment isn't that bad, you kind of just take it. You take that small punishment now, get Osimhen in, because for 6 months he'd be gelling with this team, or get another striker in, a Tone, whatever. And then next season, we start, hopefully, with a striker that's raring to go, and we have the 5-point deduction now, which in the long run isn't really going to kill us. It's crazy, I know. I'm just throwing it out there. Crystal Palace will be fine. There's no doubt in my mind they will survive again this season. Not because they're a great team, but I think there's just so many teams that are worse than them. I think it's very clear that Sheffield United and Burnley are probably going to go down this season. Luton, it's difficult. It's very difficult with Luton because on their day, they can win at home. They can win against anyone. And I still think Nottingham Forest, with a potential point deduction on the way, they could be favourites to go down as well. Brentford and Everton will be fine. Even with Everton's point deduction, they're in 17th now. So, first Arsenal video back. First Operation Arsenal since the break. And it's a 5-0 win. I will happily take that. Very happy. And who have we got next? Hang on, let's just double check. For some reason, it's not giving me fixtures at the bottom there. Arsenal, fixtures. It's Nottingham Forest next, yeah, and then it's Liverpool. 2 tough games. Away to Forest is never easy, never easy. And we've got 10 days. 10 days until that game. So another nice long break. But then we're thrown into a very busy February, and the Champions League will be returning as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.